Look at this city. It is Moscow today. Do you see the fire? Do you see the empty shelves? Do you see people fighting for food? No. You see traffic. You see restaurants full of people. You see a modern city. But this should not be possible. 2 years ago, the biggest economies in the world made a plan. They wanted to destroy this economy. They used a financial weapon. They cut the banks off. They stopped the trade. They froze the money. Today, there are 15,000 sanctions on Russia. That is more than Iran, more than Cuba, more than North Korea combined. The experts said the Russian economy would die. They predicted a collapse. They were wrong. The economy is growing. Factories are running 24 hours a day. Wages are going up. How is this possible? Is the data fake, or did the West miss something huge? Welcome to the most surprising economic story of the decade. This is how Russia survived the economic storm and why the storm is not over yet. To understand this, we must look at the plan. The plan was simple. Isolate Russia. Make it impossible for them to buy things. Make it impossible for them to sell things. If Russia cannot sell oil, it has no money. If it has no money, it cannot fight a war. It sounds logical, but there was a problem. The world is not a flat circle. It is a complex web. When Europe said no to Russian oil, Russia did not stop pumping. They just turned the pipes to the east. They called India. They called China. These countries are huge. They need energy. Russia said, "We will give you a discount." India and China said, "Deal." But there was a logistical problem. How do you move the oil? European ships were banned from helping Russia. European insurance companies were banned too. So Russia did something clever and very risky. They built a shadow fleet. They bought hundreds of old ships, ships that were ready for the scrapyard. They bought them secretly. They registered them in countries with loose rules, like Gabon or Panama. These ships do not use Western insurance. They turn off their tracking systems. They meet in the middle of the ocean. They move oil from one ship to another to hide where it came from. The West tried to block the door. Russia just broke a hole in the wall. The oil kept flowing, and the cash kept coming. But money is only half the story. You need things to spend it on. Sanctions stopped companies from selling to Russia. No more iPhones, no more German car parts, no more computer chips. In the first few months, imports crashed. Factories stopped. They missed parts. But then something strange happened in the mountains of Central Asia. Look at a country like Kyrgyzstan. It is a small neighbor of Russia. Before the war, they bought a normal amount of German cars. Suddenly, their orders for German cars went up by 5,000%. Did the people of Kyrgyzstan suddenly become rich? No, they were not keeping the cars. They were buying them from Germany and then driving them across the border into Russia. It is called parallel imports. It works for everything: washing machines, cameras, microchips. Russia buys from a friend. The friend buys from the West. The West knows this is happening, but it is very hard to stop every truck at every border. So the Russian consumer can still buy a new phone. It just costs a little more, and it takes a longer route to get there.
Now we get to the most important part. This is the real reason the numbers look good. We usually measure an economy by GDP, Gross Domestic Product. It measures how much activity happens. If you build a school, GDP goes up. If you build a tank, GDP also goes up. Russia is building a lot of tanks. The government is pouring billions of dollars into defense. Factories that make shells and missiles are working 3 shifts. They never close. This creates jobs, a lot of jobs. In some poor regions of Russia, men are earning 3 times their normal salary. They work at the factory, or they sign up for the army. When these men get paid, they spend money. They buy food. They repair their houses. This makes the local economy look very busy. But this is a trap. Economists call this bad growth. Think about it. If you build a car, someone can use it for 10 years. It adds value. If you build a missile, you fire it. It explodes. It is gone. The money is used, but the value is destroyed. Russia is burning its savings to keep the fire going. It looks bright and hot right now, but it is burning the furniture to heat the house. So on the surface, it looks stable. But look closer. There are cracks in the foundation. The first crack is inflation. The government is printing money to pay for the war. When there is too much money, prices go up. Eggs, chicken, fuel, everything is more expensive for normal people. To stop this, the Russian central bank had to do something painful. They raised interest rates very high. In many countries, an interest rate of 5% is high. In Russia, it went over 18%. This means it is almost impossible for a normal business to borrow money. If you want to open a bakery, you cannot get a loan. If you want to build a house, you cannot afford the mortgage. Only the government can afford to borrow. So the government becomes everything. The second crack is the people, or the lack of people. Hundreds of thousands of young men left the country. They did not want to fight. Hundreds of thousands more went to the front lines. There is a massive shortage of workers, welders, drivers, engineers. Companies are fighting to find staff. They have to pay higher wages to get anyone. This pushes prices up even more. It is a spiral. Wages go up, prices go up, so wages must go up again. The biggest cost is not money. It is the future. Before the sanctions, Russia used Western technology. They used American software. They used German machines to drill for oil. They used French parts in their planes. Now those links are cut. Russia is trying to make its own planes and cars, but you cannot replace 30 years of technology in 1 year. So they are looking to China. Russia is selling its oil to China. It is buying its cars from China. It is buying its phones from China. 70% of new cars in Russia are now Chinese brands. Russia wanted to be independent from the West, but now it is becoming dependent on the East. It is becoming a junior partner. If China decides to stop selling chips tomorrow, Russia stops. That is a dangerous place to be. So, did the sanctions fail? If the goal was to stop the war immediately, yes, they failed. Russia is a huge, resource-rich country. It is too big to cancel. It found new friends. It found new routes. It proved that the global financial system is not as powerful as we thought.
But economics is not about today, it is about tomorrow. Russia has survived by transforming into a fortress. A fortress is safe, but a fortress is also a prison. Inside the walls, the economy is running hot, but it is running on war money, and it is cut off from the technology that builds the future. The lights in Moscow are still on, the stores are still open, the system works. But the question is not, does it work? The question is, how long can you run an engine at maximum speed before it breaks?